Hi there, I am Elghadi Sufyan, Microsoft Certified Data Engineer and Power BI Specialist. In this video, we are going to talk about row filter context in Power BI. Whether you are just starting out or looking to sharpen your skills, this will help you get one step closer to mastering Power BI. Let's get started.
So now we'll be talking about another important concept in DAX, which is the row context. That makes or break your calculations, especially when you create calculated columns. So first of all, what is a row context? So the row context happens whenever a Power BI processes a DAX calculation row by row instead of working with entire columns at once. So the row context is created automatically in calculated columns, and it's also created by the iterators like the SUMX filter and add columns, etc. So in order to start getting started with it, for example, if we created a calculated column that contains, for example, the multiplication of quantity multiplied by the unit price. So the result will be a calculated column. So the result, for example, in here, for example, I suppose that this is the result of our data. It will be so each the calculation will be proceeded row by row. So this is an example of a row context. So the row context is automatically applies when you create a calculated column, while the row context in measures is not always supported. For example, if you created a measure and you made the same DAX code, which is, for example, the sales quantity multiplied by the sales unit price, it will give you an error because measures do not have a row context by default. If you want to, we can include the row context by using the iterators. For example, in this case, so as we use the SUMX here, so we the SUMX for the second parameter is supporting the row context. So it processes the calculation row by row, applying the row context correctly. And in order to visually understand it, so here, for example, how the row context works, for example, in our case in here, so we're using the SUMX that iterates over the sales table line by line. So it takes each line and does the quantity, so it goes for the quantity and multiplies it by the unit price and gives the value, for example, in here. So it breaks down each line in the filter is represented by a header and a value. So in here, this line is presented in this filter. This the other line is in another table filter. So each line is presented as a table as in the filter context. So this is the representation of the row filter context, and so this is how this calculation is done. So takes each line, calculates the result, then adds the results later. For example, let's suppose that we have a measure that, first of all, we have a slicer of date. So we're applying a filter of dates. So in this case, we are applying the filter of dates in a filter context because it's not iterating over each line. So every line in this sales table, so the filter is applied in here in the filter context, and this filter will generate us a reference table that contains only the rows of sales where this filter of dates is respected by the sales date column. So it will give us a number of lines of sales, and within this table of reference, and not this one, but this table, after applying the filter context first in the first place, then each line of each row in this reference table will be presented as a row context for applying the the next measure, for example, the sum x in here. So we'll be applying the calculation for this line, etc. Then we sum all the results to give us a value. So the difficulty here resides when combining the row context with the filter context correctly. So the key rules to remember is that row context applies in iterators and calculated columns, while measures do not have row context by default, and the row context does not automatically apply the filter context. Else, if you can use the calculate if needed, and so when using calculate, we can integrate the row context into measures. So it's possible to include it, but it makes the evaluation a little bit complex.
If you found this video helpful, feel free to subscribe, like, and share it with others. And if you are looking for a complete structured course on Power BI from beginner to advanced, I have got a full course available on Udemy. Feel free to join me there and take your Power BI skills to the next level.